OK, here we go. Order. James Frith to move the motion.
I beg to move that this House has considered the impact of AI on intellectual property. It's a pleasure to serve under you, Ms McVeigh. I'm grateful to colleagues, to you all who have joined us here today. None of us here will wish to prevent the inevitable, exciting power of change. This isn't about resisting that change, but of shaping it, of determining what comes next, for what and for who. It's a debate that grows louder and more important by the day. And I hope we can today begin to mark a landing zone of shared positions, because the might and strength of our creative industries remain deeply alarmed. Copyright is the foundation to their creations, our UK industry and livelihoods, across music, films, books, news, investigations, coding, games, paintings and much more. The government has made strong commitments to our creative industries, but it will also have heard that being a priority in the government's upcoming industrial strategy for growth will fall well short if it doesn't ensure legal peace of mind and action on AI for those creating some of life's greatest experiences. The government and the Minister has continually said it wants creatives to be better paid, better looked after, with licensing in the AI age to come. Considering the agreement on the need for licensing and remuneration, why do the loudest AI tech companies expect to train their machines on human-created content for nothing? The Minister has referred to learning the lessons from the Napster age. I asked the Minister, does he agree that it was the assertion of copyright that ensured we live with Spotify, for example, and not a music industry cannibalised by piracy? Artificial intelligence is reshaping life as we know it. Its extraordinary potential must be built on integrity. Ignoring rights, abandoning trusted status or undermining commercial principles make for bad policy and worse law.
Will the old gentleman give way?
Be delighted.
Thank you. Congratulations on securing this debate. But is the honourable gentleman aware of the Society of Authors petition with 50,000 signatures so far calling for action following Meta's use of 7.5 million pirated books from the illegal LibGen database to train its Llama 3 AI, and that this is a blatant infringement of the author's copyright?
The honourable lady makes a precise and excellent point. Seemingly by the day, we learn of whole sections of our creative industries having their work ripped off, and I will come on to what we need to do. I will just make one more point, if I may. I'll come to you. We need an assertion of first principles, economic fairness, an honest day's pay for an honest day's work, the cost of doing business and of paying your way. Our mission for our creative industries cannot mean creative industry submission. The opportunity plan will not work if our creative industries are the opportunity cost. As Labour, we back the working people that make our creative industries so powerful.
I thank my friend for securing today's debate, because many of my Slough constituents have contacted me concerned about the impact of AI on the intellectual property of creatives. We have a thriving UK creative industry which contributed over £120 billion in 2022 to our economy. In fact, just down the road from Slough, we have both Pinewood Studios and Shinfield Studios, which have given us global hits over the years. But does my honourable friend agree that we must ensure that these industries are properly listened to before any legislative changes, to ensure that those film and media and other creative industries can continue to thrive?
Thank you. My honourable friend makes an excellent point in both demonstrating the economic might of these industries, the sheer size of their contribution, as well as the fact that this is the industry, Britain's best industry, giving some of the best life experiences. And I know how well he is thought of. Creative industries must not be expected to forfeit their legal rights for uncertainty. There is no doubt that AI will unlock huge gains in our society. The story some tell is selective, though. We are told that only if we deregulate will we unlock the AI economic growth, that the UK must hurry up or fall behind, that regulation will only slow us down, that the urgency is theirs to get the deal done. It is no consequence that this hurrying up has intensified, as the first US judgment has found that AI training is not deemed fair use.
Does he agree with me that creative industries have shown us that they are willing to engage and embrace AI? The Financial Times were the first UK publisher to sign a licensing agreement with OpenAI, and Shutterstock has just this month signed a research licence with Synthesia, a London-based AI startup. Does he agree that we should seek to create a framework which facilitates more of these deals and ensures that small, independent creatives can access them too?
My honourable friend makes an excellent point, and it is fundamental to the future of this coexistence that licensing and the legal peace of mind that this industry requires, is seeking, is uppermost in any future position the government takes. Let's take a closer look. We know that behind the AI models being created and continuing to train are massive data sets, not built on transparency and trust, but on the unpaid labour of creators. Our concern must be to grasp the progress that AI presents, but not at the dismantling or the destruction of a sector already giving Britain such substantial economic, cultural and social capital, both here and around the world. We're the creative superpower. Our cultural exports are world-class. Our IP industries are high-valued, high-skilled and globally admired. Creative industries are not seeking to change the rules of the game, only that their rights are upheld. Rights which underpin the very licensing and remuneration the government has assured us in person as fundamental to any settled position. The problem, though, is not uncertainty in the law. It is the opacity in the technology. UK copyright law is clear. If someone uses your work without permission, it's infringement. Arguments that cite complexity in an age of AI ignore the capabilities of the very web crawling underway.
Honourable member for giving way, and I thank him for securing this very important debate. And we can see how important it is by the huge amount of people that have come to see the debate but also want to speak in it. Is the honourable member aware of the recent DAX survey of visual artists, most of whom live with money under the minimum wage, that showed that 84% of artists would agree to license their work for fair remuneration? This would require a technical solution that is embedded in the metadata that is respected by AI and platforms. At the moment, anything uploaded onto our social media platforms has that metadata scraped. So does he agree with me that in looking for solutions, the government needs to make sure that we legislate for...
Thank you. I agree. And as I'm about to come on and say, there is ample proof of the stripping away of that very metadata that could be the identifying feature in the use and scraping. With AI models, rights holders cannot see what's being used. This is not a crisis of legislation. It's an absence of transparency, of no attribution, no recompense to the very content and resource these giant machines are being built with and from. I give way.
For giving way. I'm very much agreeing with him in relation to it's not the fact that copyright law is a problem here, it's about transparency and enforcement. And my own constituent, Marion Todd, the author of the detective Claire Mackay novels, has found herself subject to the same Lib Gen as the honourable member for Neath and Swansea East referred to. We need to see a full response from Meta. Does he agree with me? And does he consider that the new clauses the Lib Dems have laid will actually look at that future compliance in the future?
Thank you. I will expand on the points that she's agreed with on transparency immediately, and thank you for your intervention. So we must have transparency. It needs to be granular, enforceable, practical. AI developers must be required to disclose which copyrighted works they've used to train or fine-tune their models. In Talbot's State of the Bots report, it confirms that, whilst every AI developer with a published policy claims its crawlers respect the robots exclusion protocol, Talbot data finds that in many instances, bots continue scraping despite explicit disallow requests for those user agents in publishers. There are many AI companies who say this need not hamper AI, and it's their voices I wish to amplify today. It's about creating a fair, functioning market for training data that benefits all sectors. Last month's YouGov survey of MPs and the general public agree 92% of MPs believe AI companies should declare the data used to train their models. 85% say using creative work without pay undermines intellectual property rights. 79% support payments to creators whose work is used in training. The public expects us to do the best for our UK industries. It's why we're square behind the government's instincts on British steel. Let's apply the government's instinct here too, as well as its strongest record and rhetoric in this space. Digital images, deep fakes, online harms, and the principle that if it is illegal offline, then it is illegal online. Big tech always begins on the fringes before being regulated to the centre. We saw it with age verification on app stores most recently. Speaking to this, will the Minister commit to government amendments to the data bill that recognise these super massive concerns? Will he commit to amending the bill with commitments to a power to regulate for transparency, consent, copyright and compensation on the face of the bill?
I thank my honourable friend, and he's making a very, very hard-hitting speech. And as part of any potential reforms, artificial intelligence companies must indeed show greater transparency when it comes to the materials that they are using to train their AI tools. Does my honourable friend agree that this will benefit the development of AI, while alongside that ensuring adequate protections for creative industries and individuals' intellectual property?
My honourable friend, I thank my honourable friend for the intervention. It is absolutely imperative we strike the right balance here. This is not about pitting one side against the other. It's about a coexistence and a mutual interdependence. Second question, another question to the Minister. Will the Minister consider introducing stronger framework for personality rights under the data bill, as being proposed by Equity and the wider creative sector, to improve protections against the illegal exploitation of artistic works by generative AI companies? And can the Minister also explain why the position is still to bundle transparency in with copyright? The stories are increasingly familiar. Entire creations and careers copied, remixed into data, while the original human creator and rights owner is left out of the conversation entirely. One visitor I met from big tech likened the training of an AI on copyrighted work to the use of a library. It's an argument that dries up when reminded that libraries pay for their books, and willfully ignores scalability differences between machine learning and human inspiration. If a warehouse traded in stolen guitars or paintings, we would expect action. But in digital form online, somehow theft is not just tolerated, it is to be expected. This is the logic the creative industry feels it is being asked to swallow. Because tech saw it, because tech read it, because tech heard it. What, tech can have it, own it, resell it? Copyright is not an obstacle. It is an infrastructure, a cornerstone of the British economy. It makes possible, as we have heard from colleagues, the £1.24 billion contribution to UK PLC. We should not be weakening it with vague exceptions or opt-out regimes. The Berne Convention, signed by over 180 countries, makes this clear. Creators must not have to exert their rights for them to exist, or have to sue to keep them. This violates international copyright norms and will undermine international relations and investment in our country. It will see capital take flight and cause economic damage. As I move towards my closing, I would like to introduce a new thought directly to the Minister. Consider also, please, Minister, the relationship that creativity needs to have, that relies on, with managed risk and the freedom of expression in a regulated model. Creatives take risks, express themselves freely. We need an economy of risk takers for growth with the freedom to express without the fear they'll be ripped off. Without the legal frameworks that protects copyright, the risk will not be embraced and creativity will dry up or move away. This is why there is so little faith in an opt-out model or a strategic direction placing the burden on individual creators to prevent their work being taken by tech. A technical solution to make such opt-outs meaningful does not yet exist. As they emerge, the same concerns and questions will need answering. Worldwide, there is no comparable territory where this is settled. No functioning rights reservation has emerged in the EU. In the US, litigation further is rife. The home of Silicon Valley, California, has a carve-out. They don't get high on their own supply. The Chancellor and the leadership of our government is right to propose the UK on the world stage as a safe and certain bet for investment. Being the UK branch for US tech demands will not deliver that. New growth has to ensure net growth. Industrial scale, unregulated scraping is not innovation. It is infringement. It erodes the commercial certainty that serious investors need. Within the regulation space, we've exciting growth opportunities also in the emerging AI licensing sector that demonstrate copyright is well understood with scalable possibility for licensing and ethical AI here in the UK. The rising emergence of platforms such as Created by Humans, Narrative, ProRata, Getty Images and Museo, Adobe and We Are Human, Sony Music and Vermilio or Universal Music and Sound Labs, relationships and licensing between Lionsgate and Runway and news publishers and Microsoft, all point to new licensing with a duty of candour. To these examples, can the Minister confirm if the Government is considering building new foundational models led and built by UK AI firms? In conclusion, this rapid technological change demands we confront the decisions in front of us as a creative powerhouse. In this defining moment, we must stand with those whose creativity shapes our culture, our economy, and our shared human story. Algorithms may calculate, but the human creativity behind it all is what pours heart, history, hope, and the human into and out of every note, frame, and story. AI cannot be allowed to redefine the soul of creation. If we erode the rights that protect our creators, we don't just risk economic loss, we risk a strangulation of those voices that tell our stories, reflect our struggles, and inspire our futures. Let us affirm that in Britain we value not just innovation, but the irreplaceable human spirit behind creativity, and protect the rights that mean we thrive, for now and for generations yet to imagine, to dream, and create. Thank you very much.
Well, this is a very well-attended debate, and I do hope to get everybody in. I've spoken to the front bench. The Minister will have 10 minutes. The opposition spokespeople have agreed to go down to 5 minutes. So there will be a limit of 3 minutes per speech. I hope all colleagues will be suitably aware of their fellow colleagues wanting to get in. And interventions will be interventions and not speeches, or I will stop you carrying on. The question is that this House has considered the impact of AI on intellectual property. Dame Caroline Dinich.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blair. Pleasure to serve under your stewardship, and I congratulate the Honourable Gentleman for Bury North not only on an excellent opening speech and securing this debate, but also on his birthday. One of the saddest things about this debate and this whole pickle that the government have led us into is that it somehow inadvertently pitches the AI sector and the potential for growth against our world-leading creative industries. It almost caricatures our creators as Luddites against innovation, and that just couldn't be further from the truth. There is no appetite in the creative industries to restrict this technology across the sector. they recognise the potential of AI. So many of them are using it already. It's borne out in the statistics. 2023 Deloitte survey said 74% of digital artists are already using AI, 67% of film and motion creatives. That number is only going to grow over time. But we hear from almost every quarter the serious concerns over our £130 billion creative industries that AI left unchecked will represent an existential threat to their growth and their very existence. That growth, incidentally, has outstripped the growth of the wider economy since 2010. Despite the potential of AI, we know that our creative industries are just growing at an incredible rate. They are our global superpower, both economically and reputationally, and that doesn't happen by accident. These industries rely on the strength of a gold standard British intellectual property regime, and they have pointed out very clearly to the Minister and to every single one of us in this room that watering down this regime will rip the carpet out from underneath a tried and tested growth industry. And AI needs creators and the data that they provide, but this data needs to be paid for, not stolen. Ironically, big tech relies on a strong IP regime as well. No one, I'm sure no one was any more surprised than I was when Sam Altman at OpenAI noted with irony that DeepSeek had exploited their open source model. And the Minister and I agree that the best way to do this, I think, is to promote transparency across the AI sector. Where we disagree is that the government's prepared proposal for an opt-out system is utterly unworkable. It's been proven internationally to be unworkable. If they push on with this madness, we must find a way to safeguard the rights of creators by explicitly demonstrating where their work has been used in a commercial setting. AI growth must not come at the cost of our creators and our world-leading creative industries. The two don't have to be mutually exclusive. There is an opportunity here for us to be a country where both can flourish in a transparent and accountable environment where everyone's talents are recognised. So I would just ask the Minister once again to think really long and hard before he does anything which will rip up the potential of our world-leading creative industries. Both can grow collaboratively together and make this country so much stronger.
Polly Billington.
Thank you very much, Ms McVeigh, and it's an honour to serve under your leadership, under your chairmanship. I'd like to first declare an interest. My wife is a professional photographer. People who create art in any form add value to the world. They inspire people, they provoke ideas, they push boundaries, and they deserve to be fairly paid for it. Just in East Thanet, we have the famous names of J.M.W. Turner, Vincent van Gogh, Charles Dickens, Wilkie Collins, Jane Austen, all inspired by that constituency, all are home to that place. Current creatives who live there must and should be paid to be able to do the same. The image of an artist in a garret has become romanticised to the point that it is almost used as an excuse not to pay creatives properly. The government is currently taking the Employment Rights Bill through its legislative stages, and once it is introduced, it will be genuinely transformative for people on low pay and insecure work. Simultaneously, the government is consulting on proposals that could actively take rights and protections away from creative workers. The right to have your work protected by copyright law is enshrined in British law, and copyright exists to protect not just the wealth of the individual, but the wealth of the nation. It is fundamental to the success of innovators, entrepreneurs and creatives, and it is fundamental to our economy. The idea that AI and tech firms claiming that they don't have free access to people's work, then they will go somewhere else, is quite frankly, I'm afraid, extortion. We do not expect or allow other industries to happen like that, so why do we think it's acceptable to force creatives to accept this deal? Now, I'm not here to defend the status of our copyright laws. We're not starting from a high baseline in this country. Creatives are sadly all too used to being ripped off and taken advantage of. The government has acknowledged that our copyright regime is out of date, and I absolutely agree with them. But it cannot be right that the answer to this is simply to make it harder for creatives, to make low-paid work even less rewarding, to make insecure work even more insecure. If we choose to modernise copyright law, to increase protections for our national create cultural wealth, we can turbocharge the growth potential of this industry. Currently, we're on a path to undermine an industry that is already insecure. One of the staples of British values is fairness. If you do a fair day's work, you get a fair day's pay. Not only is allowing creatives to have their protection eroded not fair, it's simply not British. We ask for simple fairness, the right to permit or to protect, and the right to be paid.
Wishart.
Thank you very much, Ms McVeigh. Welcome to serving under your chairing this afternoon. Congratulate the honourable gentleman not only on this debate but on his birthday, and I hope he goes on to enjoy himself much more than sitting in Westminster Hall for the rest of the day. Out of all the issues that I think the government thought it would be confronting in 9 months after being elected into government would be being in some sort of spat with the creative industries, finding that the creative industries, almost as one voice, have real difficulties and issues with a government initiative. I really don't think they thought that they were going to be here. And I think we have firstly to pay tribute to the wonderful campaign that's been mounted over the course of the past few weeks and months from all our artists and all our creatives. And when you've upset everybody from Tom York to Rupert Murdoch, from Paul McCartney to the Director General of the BBC, I think you really know that you have to experience some sort of difficulties. The government asked the creative industries what it thought of its proposals and what particularly it thought of its preferred opt-out plan. And as like a finely tuned chorus, the creative sector came back as one and told them it does not like it one bit. And haven't our constituents been magnificent the way that they've responded to this? Now, I've tried to evangelise about the role of IP and the value of copyright for the 20-odd years I've been in Parliament. But one of the things that's come out of this consultation is that inadvertently, this government's clumsy attempt to marshal this debate has made our constituents realise the value of copyright. They've actually got behind it. They've started to see, understand and see that this is what is the basis of all the wonderful works that they enjoy throughout their lives, and they know it is our gold standard copyright regime that gives our artists protection, the remuneration and the rewards that they give for producing all these wonderful works. So I think one good thing has come out of this is the value of copyright has now started to be seen by all of our constituents. Now, I think the government's sincere in trying to bridge the gap between artificial intelligence and their creative industries, and you want to satisfy all sectors. But we've got to see what we're up against and just have a look at some of the big tech companies' submissions in the consultation. Have a look at OpenAI's. The opt-out proposal's even too far for them. They want unfettered access to our cultural treasure trove without any inhibitions or without this difficulty. So I think the first thing that the Minister has to say to the big AI companies is our creative heritage, everything that we've built in the course of the past few decades, is not there to be plundered and taken for nothing. But we've got to make progress. And I really hope that the government now decide that they're not going to pursue this opt-out proposal. It cannot work. There is no way that it could be a technical solution. We've seen that within the EU. They have to drop it. Look at this licensing system. The Minister's talked about this consistently in the course of the past few weeks and months. Let's make sure we make sure and unravel the whole idea of copyright and with the whole thing about transparency. We've got to make sure that these are separated and use the data bill. It is there in front of us. Why can't we use this to make real progress on this issue?
Alison Hume.
Thank you, Ms McVeigh. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and I congratulate my honourable friend for securing this timely and important debate. I would like to draw members' attention to my membership of the Writers' Guild of Great Britain. And I hope members had a restful Easter break. Many writers particularly look forward to Easter every year, not least because of the eggs, but towards the end of March we see the payment from the Authors Licensing Collection Society land in our bank accounts. And for writers who depend on payments for secondary uses of their work, this money is a vital income stream in what is a harsh freelance existence. I mean, I love seeing where my television dramas that I've written many years ago have been shown. This year I learned that Swedish children had watched my UK-based science fiction series set in a world without adults. Creativity knows no boundaries, but neither, does it seem, does generative AI. Collection societies like ALCS and those representing other creative working people ensure that we receive fair payment and that our rights are respected. ALCS has paid out £700 million to writers since 1977. And this, Ms McVeigh, is the point I rise to make. Many scripts end up on the internet along with novels and books and other published work. And the government has proposed the introduction of a text and data mining copyright exception, which would allow AI developers to use copyrighted works without explicit prior consent. And one of the arguments put forward is that we need an exception because licensing doesn't work, but it does work. Rights holders have been licensing their works to commercial users for over a century, adapting to emerging technologies and meeting the demand for multi-territorial licensing. And licensing is proven to provide commercial users with the legal certainty required for investment, whilst also protecting creators and right holders from unauthorised exploitation. We cannot have a situation where a lifetime of human creative endeavour is gobbled up for free by the bots. And this is the opportunity for the UK government to lead from the front by ensuring the data bill includes granular transparency requirements so that AI companies must disclose what they are using for free and to put a stop to unregulated scraping of creative content online. Freelancers are looking to this Labour government to ensure that they are fairly rewarded for their work. We must protect our creative working people and make sure that their work pays too.
Jim Shannon.
Madam Chair, and a pleasure to serve on your chairship, and can I congratulate the honourable gentleman for Barry North for setting the scene so very well. We do, I believe, sit at the crossroads of cutting-edge technology and the legal frameworks that govern creativity. The different ways in which artificial intelligence impacts on intellectual property rights. We, in Northern Ireland, in United Kingdom, Great Britain, we can boast a historically strong and thriving culture of creativity across a very broad spectrum of art, science and technology. So it's very important we look at this. These advancements now raise important questions about and the protection of intellectual property, as who owns the output of an AI system. Is it the user, the developer, or the AI provider itself? These are questions that inspire debate in boardrooms, courtrooms and centres of policy making across the United Kingdom. In 2020, a UK-based artist used an AI tool to create a series of digital paintings that drew significant attention at a London gallery. The question which arose was who owns the copyright? The artist who used the AI technology or the developer of the AI system, or is it no one at all? Under current law, Section 9(3) of the 1988 Act states, in the case of a computer-generated work, the author is deemed to be a person by whom the arrangements necessary for the creation of the work are undertaken. The problem with that clause, of course, is this: it was written decades ago, before such technology was even thought about. So it's now being challenged when addressing the nuances of today's AI systems, where creativity is now a joint effort of human input and machine output as well. So the outcome of this consultation is important because it will shape the creative industries for years to come. As the UK is a global hub for technology and law, with institutions like the UK IPO and a thriving creative economy, the UK can set the precedent for how AI and intellectual property can coexist. So the first step, I believe, is we must have legal clarity to revisit the Copyright Designs and Patents Act and the Patents Act 1988 to specifically address AI-generated works and inventions by creating a new category that pertains to AI-assisted intellectual property with its own rules and ownership. And certainly, we should invest in education to empower creators and businesses to navigate the evolving intellectual property landscape. And finally, we need to balance innovation with fairness. As AI reshapes the landscape, we must ensure that the benefits of AI-driven innovation are shared in a way that is equitable and does not place a monopoly of power in the hands of an elite few or restrict raw human integrity. We should embrace this moment as an opportunity to redefine intellectual property for the age of AI and future where technology and human enterprise work hand in hand to create a more resourceful and ambitious society. Step to do that is this day in this debate. Thank you.
Steve Rice.
Thank you, Mr McVeigh. It's a pleasure to share under your, to serve under your chairmanship, and I congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Bury North, for securing this debate and on his birthday in particular. This debate comes at an important time for the country as we grapple with the ways in which we can continue to nurture our fantastically successful creative and cultural sector, and also supercharge our economy with the opportunities that AI offers. Across Devon, our creative industries contribute over £250 million to the local economy every year and supports more than 11,000 jobs, with hubs in my city of Exeter, in Plymouth, in Totnes, and in our coastal towns where there is a thriving festival scene. This sector is not only economically significant, but it's also deeply rooted in our communities. It's powered in our region by freelancers, micro-businesses and independent venues, and it's also a driving force in regional regeneration and tourism alike. Exeter in particular is a shining example of what creative investment can achieve. As a UNESCO City of Literature, it stands among a global network of places that recognise the power of human words to connect, include and to inspire. Exeter's literary legacy stretches back over 1,000 years, from the 10th century Exeter book to the dynamic work of contemporary writers and festivals today. And in our city, institutions like Exeter Phoenix, the RAM, Exeter Library and the Keywords Writing Hub are not just cultural assets, they're civic anchors promoting literacy, community engagement and creative opportunity for all. We also have a thriving digital and gaming scene, a world-class climate science sector and a burgeoning life sciences economy. Creative tech in our city includes an emerging immersive media, film and digital design sector across the city and the wider region too. And so whilst we do have a creative economy that we want to grow, we also want to seize the opportunity of AI, which has the ability to completely change the way our economy works and will supercharge our science and creative tech sectors as well. This government is already creating space for these opportunities with the AI Opportunities Action Plan, and I've written to the department in support of the Exeter Science Park's application to host a new AI growth zone. Building the UK's sovereign compute capacity to enable UK-based AI models and cloud computing across the country, including in Exeter, will be vital to securing the investment, the jobs and future tech creativity that will continue to shape our lives and meet some of the great challenges of our times, including the very greatest, climate change. However, this must be built fairly and not at the expense of our human creators. As a member of the Science, Innovation and Technology Select Committee, we recently held a joint session with our DCMS Select Committee colleagues to delve further into these issues, and I support our joint submission to the Minister on that basis. I want to make sure that the government is working hard to find a balance between protecting the rights and nurturing the growth of our cultural and creative sector, while also grasping the opportunities of UK-based AI development. So can the Minister therefore confirm to working with stakeholders involved in this area, cultural and technological, to build a system, possibly a globally unique and groundbreaking system that will be embraced by others in the future, built on technological solutions, that provides granular transparency, consent, fair remuneration, and that respects and builds upon our copyright laws, whilst also enabling AI training models to be built and trained here. Thank you.
Vicky Slade.
It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Bury North for securing this important timely debate, not only on his birthday, but also the birthday of one of our greatest creatives ever, William Shakespeare. I just hope he doesn't succumb also on his birthday like he did. Did you not know that? He was born and died on the same day. My son, Isaac Slade, is studying musical theatre at the university. He wants to spend his life in the performing arts, a career he knows will be challenging. He and his peers expect long hours, low pay and the need to support themselves with hospitality and teaching work. Also, he can do what they love, entertain us all. But the government's current position on copyright and AI risks making those careers much more precarious. Gerard, an actor from Upton in my constituency, wrote calling the position dangerous. Margaret, a designer, explained that she no longer shares her work online. She's afraid it will be copied, without her consent, without protection and without pay. She said, if this is allowed to happen, we shall become a dying breed. If we don't get paid for our artwork, we will eventually go out of business. So I'm asking, is the government really suggesting that performers and creatives should work for free? I recently held a round table in my constituency of Mid Dorset and North Poole, and a musician, Peter from Wimborne, shared something with me that absolutely shocked me. He told me that when I'm out walking my dog listening to my calming classical playlist, the chances are that some of that music has probably been interspersed with AI-generated music. I had absolutely no idea. And I'm sure most people will be deeply concerned to learn that they may unknowingly be enjoying work taken and replicated without the original artist's permission. Today I met with Equity, who explained the risks in very simple terms. Just like PRS ensures musicians are paid when their track is played on the radio, the same principle applies to the use of a voice or performance on screen. But without the solid copyright positions remaining in place, AI will use that voice without their knowledge, consent and payment by people around the world. And the government is arguing that loosening copyright laws may encourage AI companies to set up here. But where is the evidence? Why would they move here if their costs are higher, if they can access that content from around the world? And if they do come here, why should they be able to get rich off the voice of an actor, the song of a musician, or the design of an artist? The people who created the work deserve to keep what is theirs. And that's why I'm urging the government to scrap the opt-out clause and support new clauses 2 to 6, the Data Access and Use Bill brought forward by my honourable friend, the member for Harpenden and Barkhamsted, which will protect UK creatives by requiring transparency in using the data, enforcing compliance of copyright, giving powers to the Information Commissioner and preventing data from being scraped. Ms McVeigh, our creative sector is the soul of our culture and the heart of our economy. We must protect it.
Lizzie Collins.
Thank you, Ms McVeigh. It's a pleasure to serve you today under your chairship, and I thank my honourable friend for securing this important debate. The question over machine learning tools, AI, and their use in intellectual property is a key test of our time. What we decide to do now will have ramifications culturally, socially and economically long into the future. Large language models, a form of machine learning such as ChatGPT, have already used pirated material and copyrighted material without the consent of the people who created it to train their models. It should be self-evident that this is a problem. It's a well-established right that people retain ownership of their work, with limited exceptions for educational critique. We have clear copyright laws, we have collective licensing schemes, yet these have been ridden roughshod over by machine learning developers. I'm not a Luddite. I'm very excited about the potential for machine learning to make our lives better, just as other technology has done before. The potential for large data sets to identify health concerns and make diagnostics more accurate, a programme able to predict the folds of proteins, saving scientists time they can spend on the next thorny issue. This is exciting stuff. And it's important that we remember that technology is morally neutral. The technology itself is not good or bad, it's a tool. Nothing more, nothing less, and we as humanity get to decide how we use that tool. And to use that tool, we need to understand it, at least in terms of how we interact with it. For example, we need to know that AI can lie. It will invent things. One of the best examples I've heard was when a large language model tool was asked by a huge Doctor Who fan to tell him about Doctor Who episodes. They simply made some up. Perfectly plausible episodes that did not exist and have never existed. So if you're ever tempted to ask ChatGPT, be warned, it might not tell you the truth. So as well as understanding the potential and the limitations of the technology itself, I believe it's also important that we create frameworks that align with our values and don't roll over for mega corporations who really don't care for our values. Meta, who own Facebook, have actually argued that individual creative works have no value in themselves, as they individually barely affect the performance of large language models. As a Vanity Fair article pointed out, this is a bit like an orchestra arguing that they shouldn't pay an individual musician because the solo bassoon can't play the whole piece by itself.
Very good.
So if large language model tech as a whole relies upon creative works, and it does, then some form of respecting the rights of creatives must be found. We have existing copyright laws. We could simply enforce them and ensure the tools are there to do so. So finally, I would urge the government to treat machine learning for what it is, a tool to be used well or used badly. Let's choose well.
John MacDonald.
I'm Secretary of the National Union of Journalists Parliamentary Group, and I've worked with Equity through Performance Alliance and Musicians Union now for the last 25 years. And I just want to get on record the the union perspective, because as other members have said often in these debates, the workers themselves have been portrayed as Luddites in some form. Quite the reverse. It's the workers themselves who are creating these mechanisms themselves. All the trade unionists are asking for is for their rights to be protected, as others have said, protected through collective bargaining, and that's the mechanism that we've used, as someone had said, for over a century, negotiations between the trade union and the trade associations themselves. And the request is straightforward, that as a copyright law should be respected. My honourable friend who secured the debate very eloquently and comprehensively set out exactly that actually it's not unclear, it's not disputed, it exists. And the simple rule is this: if you want to use someone's material, you simply secure a licence with the rights holder. And as a result of that, you can actually, through that collective bargaining mechanism, you can protect everybody in the future. Briefly, yes.
Anyway, all I would want to add is that quite often copyright is enforced by people who have got licensing departments in order to be able to enforce. And smaller creatives, such as many in my constituency, find it extremely difficult to enforce copyright as it currently is, which is one of the reasons I think we should be using this opportunity to create strengthening of our copyright laws, protect those low-paid workers.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Exactly right. But one of the issues that's been raised by this person, the honourable member who secured the debate, is the key issue is lack of transparency, because people aren't even aware that their stuff is being used until they're outraged by it at a later date. And that's the role of government. The role of government is to ensure that they enforce that the AI that's being developed is compliant with the regulations that we want to. In addition to that, as has been mentioned, the Information Commissioner has made it very clear the role of GDPR and how it applies in this, and the issue there is ensuring from government that there's proper enforcement. The simple message, I think, that's coming from this debate to the Minister is just drop the text data exception that's what the government is proposing. We've made it, a number of members have made it clear, nobody has discovered an effective opt-out mechanism that is applicable at this time. At some time in the future, maybe, but it certainly isn't in the immediate future itself. And the other issue, and the demand that's come from virtually every trade union and other bodies that are representing individual artists as well, is there needs to be an update of the performance rights framework now. And that's the debate that we should be having of how it could be updated to improve, and in particular about the enforcement of existing GDPR. Someone in one of the briefings I saw that said that this country is the sort of goldmine of creativity and creative content. Well, at the moment, it looks as though there's a gold rush on. It's like the Wild West out there at the moment, and the people who are benefiting are US big tech companies. I don't want to push the analogy too far, but there's a need for a sheriff in all this, and that's the role of government. And the one thing the government shouldn't be doing is taking us backwards rather than moving us forward. I'm hoping the Minister leaves this debate with a full understanding of the tenure, not just of what's needed, but the strength of feeling on a cross-party basis that actually we need the government intervention in a positive way to protect people's rights and to protect that gold mine of creativity in this country.
Samantha Niblett.
Thank you, Chair. It's an honour to serve under your chairship, and I thank my honourable friend for securing this really important and crucial debate. Great way to spend his birthday. I want to draw attention to the fact that my partner works in publishing. However, my background is not in publishing or the creative industries, but within the data and tech industry. And I'm excited by what it can help us achieve. I rise today to not only speak about artificial intelligence, but about what kind of country we want to be in the decades ahead. We are at a crossroads. The United Kingdom is positioning itself as a global leader in AI, and rightly so. AI has the potential to transform every sector of our economy, from healthcare to transport, from education to climate science. But as we drive innovation forward, we must also ensure that our values are aligned. If we want to be the best place in the world to start, scale and grow in an AI company, then we must also be the most trusted. And trust is not built through ambition alone, it's built through transparency, through fairness, through respect for the rule of law, and yes, through the protection of intellectual property.
At present, many of the powerful AI models have been trained on vast quantities of copyrighted material, books, articles, art, music, software, and all often without consent, knowledge or compensation of the people who created it. And this is not hypothetical, it's happening now. And in the last week, we have seen some big names in tech say they want IP laws ripped up altogether, although I do wonder how they'd feel if tech firms with deeper pockets and bigger legal teams than theirs decided to simply take what they have. Pulling up the ladder of IP law may no longer seem such an attractive prospect. So let us be absolutely clear. Copyright is not an inconvenience. It is not a technicality. It is the legal and moral framework that ensures that creators are rewarded for their contributions. Now, some will argue that requiring AI companies to comply with copyright law would hinder innovation, but the opposite is true. Legal certainty enables innovation. What stifles innovation is a regulatory vacuum where only the largest, best-resourced firms can afford to operate in the grey areas of the law. We should not accept a model where creativity becomes collateral damage in the pursuit of speed or short-term profit for shareholders, rather than the concerns of citizens, which governments must prioritise. So let's establish a clear, transparent and enforceable framework for the use of copyrighted content in AI training. But let's not waste any time and let's not kick this can down the road and wait for the results of the copyright and AI consultation. Let's act now. Let's have amendments in the Data Use and Access Bill to ensure that companies providing generative AI services in the UK must comply with UK copyright law and be transparent about the data fueling at their models. After all, they should know what data they are utilising. It can be done. Companies like Adobe, 273 Adventures, Flawless AI and more are doing it. Experts have made it clear that there's no opt-out models that work, so we have an opportunity to be world leaders. Let's lead.
Yeah. Natasha Irons.
Ms O'Vey, it's an honour to speak under your chairmanship, and I would like to thank my right honourable friend for securing this really important debate. And just to declare, I have a voiceover artist as a husband, so I just need to put that on record. Like every technological leap forward before it, whether it's theatre to cinema or television to streaming, protecting the rights and incomes of our creators does not create a barrier to innovation or growth. And as we move into an AI-powered future, protecting creators with transparency, consent and compensation for the content used to train AI models becomes even more crucial. Our creative industries are a great British success story and worth over £125 billion to the UK economy and supporting over 2.4 million jobs. What underpins this success is the principle that those that create content are paid for it, and copyright protections have been the bedrock of protecting this principle for decades. The case for updating UK copyright law for training AI is that the current framework is unclear, but there simply is no ambiguity. If you play music in a club without a licence or you sell counterfeit DVDs, you are breaking the law. And if AI companies wish to train their models on copyrighted content, then they have to get consent to do so. AI companies may be harder to hold to account because their models are opaque, but that makes this a transparency and enforcement issue, not a legal one. Our content, our books, our journalism, our music is the oil needed to fuel generative AI systems. Madam Chairperson, I don't think anyone would argue that oil mined and used in any other industry should be done for free. So why should it be any different for the precious resource that is creative content? Creating generative AI systems with no accountability, no remuneration is not innovation, it is simply exploitation. I welcome this government's commitment to our creative industries and its commitment to finding a solution fit for the future, but the current proposals to have an opt-out system is unworkable and unfair. The government even acknowledges that the technology to implement an opt-out system does not exist. So we must uphold the rights of our content creators by upholding copyright protections, giving them the transparency, the consent and the compensation that they deserve. Thank you.
Annalise Midgley.
Thank you, Ms McVeigh. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I'd like to thank my honourable friend for Bury North for securing this debate. Happy birthday. Thanks, Mitch. I want to refer members to my register of interests. I'm a member of the Musicians' Union. And long ago, I worked in the music industry. I know musicians, not as headlines or playlists, but as people. And most of all, I'm a fan of what they make and of what their work means to our shared national life. But I'm inundated with concerns from them. Their fears are immediate tangible, because the truth is the music industry has long enabled the legal and largely unchallenged exploitation of those who make music. Streaming has gutted the incomes of songwriters and performers. More than half of professional musicians now earn less than £15,000 a year. That's much less than the minimum wage. Their songs are played more than ever, but they're not seeing the money. But someone is. And if copyright laws are not handled correctly, it will be musicians who once again lose out. Used, imitated, unpaid. So any serious discussion about AI must include a clear demand for transparency from companies developing these tools. Creatives deserve to know when and how their work is being used. Without that, there can be no fairness. To me, it's very simple. No one should be allowed to use someone's work without permission or payment. That's called theft. The cost of sidelining a creative sector that already exists comes with a bill. And right now, working artists are being asked to foot it. And we, in our party, the Labour Party, believe in making work pay. And this has to include the work of musicians. But some of these current proposals could favour faceless corporations that treat creativity as data and dress up appropriation as progress. There's nothing inevitable about this. We value culture, we value work, and we must value those who create. And so I'd like to end by repeating the plea of my friend from the other place, Lord Brennan of Canton, who said, "For human intelligence and EI, emotional intelligence, over AI, artificial intelligence, AI is a great servant, including to the creative industries, but it would be a terrible master if we allow it to become that."
Lee Barron.
Thank you, Mr McVeigh. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and can I congratulate the member for Bury North for securing such an important debate, because to me it is about culture, it is about creativity, it is about human talent, and it's about people reaching their full potential in life and then making sure that that's not taken away from them by things that can happen. This morning I hosted a drop-in with Equity. I also met with the Association of Photographers. They're worried, and rightly so. 58% of the Association of Photography members say they've already lost work to AI. That's over £14,000 on average for each professional photographer already lost. That's not work going, that's work being taken by generative AI. Over 15 billion AI-generated images are out there now, trained on people's intellectual property without permission, without payment, or those people even knowing. Photographers post their pictures on their own websites, then AI companies send in web crawlers to scrape them. No consent, no warning. That's data theft, plain and simple. It breaks data protection laws, and we should call it out for what it is, because once it's scraped, it's gone. They can't retrieve their property. We wouldn't allow that in any other sector. That's not right. You wouldn't let somebody steal your tools. So why would you let them steal your work, or your face, or your voice? That's robbery. Actors are finding their faces and voices turning up in ads and games they never agreed to. AI watches you work. It copies you. No one should lose their job and their creative talent to a machine that's trained on their own work. It's your face. It's your voice. It's your style. It should be your choice. Consent must come first. No yes, no use. Let's fix this. Let's give working people the rights they need in the AI age. We've got copyright laws for a reason. Now let's update them. Let's strengthen them. Tech companies can't just take. There must be rules. No opt-outs. There's got to be protections, and there has to be fair pay. Protect our artists. Protect our voices. Protect our jobs. This isn't science fiction. It's happening right now, and we need to act now before irreparable damage is done.
Uma Kumar.
Thank you, Mr McVeigh. It's a pleasure to serve
under your chairship. And can I congratulate my friend for Bury North on securing this important debate. And in the words of my favourite artist, Stevie Wonder, happy birthday to you. In my constituency of Stratford and Bow, I have a brilliant example of how technological advances can expand the performing arts in the best way with the wonderful ABBA Voyage and their famous digital avatars, or avatars as we call them. But I've also been contacted by over 200 constituents of mine. We're a thriving creative hub in East London, and they have very real concerns about what the development of AI means for their careers and the careers they've devoted their lives to. I've got motion designers, photographers, illustrators, and someone who is even the voice of the Northern Line who's been in touch with me. To give an example, a few of them who work in illustration have written to me with their concerns, outlining that without suitable safeguards, their careers and their businesses are being put at risk. Not to mention their creative output, as we've heard from honourable friends here today. Their creative output is their craft, their life's work that they've honed, in some cases spent decades training for, and these are all at risk of being cannibalised. It's that tension between big-scale changes from technology and AI that can both enrich our lives, but the impact it has on the individual creators who are the engine of culture that we consume that needs to be reconciled. Now, I'm really proud that Britain is leading the way in so many of these technological advances, but we absolutely have to get to the bottom of the concerns that constituents like mine and those shared today have outlined. Could the Minister, in his response, provide any assurances about how the government is addressing these concerns and showing that they're listening to the voices of our constituents? And can he also outline how the government will ensure that artists and creators retain control over their voice, their style and their licences? Thank you.
To get the last couple of speakers in, we're just going to have to go down to 2 minutes, but I'll get everybody in. Liz Saville-Roberts.
I would like to congratulate the member for Bury North. I think he spoke excellently. There's been many excellent speeches today. I will speak fairly briefly, but there are some specific points that I want to raise. Firstly, to thank Valerie Dunmore, who is the chair of the Society of Women Writers and Journalists, established in 1894. She came to see me specifically to raise these issues, and I think it gives us an idea, therefore, of what is at stake. And just to turn now to the creative industries in Wales, we know, and we've heard in other areas as well, of how much the creative industries contribute. 1.5 billion of the contributions to the creative industry in Wales itself. There are over 3,500 creative businesses, and they're increasing, and there are an increasing number of freelance workforce as well. And these industries all play an important part in preserving and spreading the Welsh language and culture. Film, drama, literature and music all sustain and produce the unique Welsh way of life through the medium, of course, both of Welsh and English. But in February this year, newspapers and news organisations across Wales devoted their leading articles to this very issue, warning that what is threatening their industry could have potentially catastrophic consequences for Welsh journalism. Creative groups in Wales, such as Tyledwyr and Ibynol Cymru, say they do not support an opt-out process, and instead they suggest that any new regime should require creators to opt in, meaning web crawlers cannot simply scrape content unless permitted to do so. I wanted to bring the Wales-specific issues to the fore today, because the risk, of course, is we always assume that the Welsh language works in the same context as that of the English language. It does not. When we look at English creators as being vulnerable, Welsh creators are even more so. And I would urge the Minister, if he could respond, as to what impact assessment there has been that this could have on creative industries in Wales, and specifically on the Welsh language, given its particular vulnerabilities.
Cat Eccles.
It's an honour to serve under your chairship, and I thank my honourable friend for Bury North for bringing this important debate. And this is a subject of huge concern to anyone who works in the creative industries, and I've been contacted by many people in my constituency of Stourbridge who are concerned about how the future will impact them and their work. And in my role as the chair of the APPG Visual Arts, it is an issue that we're looking at very closely to ensure that artist copyright is fully protected. AI can provide many opportunities across many industries, and indeed we have already seen AI images grace the cover of magazines and AI artwork sold at auction. But it also comes with challenges such as how can we ensure sustainable growth while safeguarding the value of people's artistic work. Artists and creatives rightly have significant concerns about how AI could negatively impact their work,
future opportunities and copyright. And the breakneck speed at which AI is developing means that there is a widening skills gap, with people playing catch-up to ensure their work remains relevant and current. The role of government in this emerging sector is crucial. Consent, control and remuneration for intellectual property must be at the heart of how the government manages AI development, and we must ensure the onus of protecting rights and intellectual property is not placed on rights holders to prevent exploitation. There are huge growth opportunities across the creative industries worth billions to our economy. Our legal frameworks for AI and copyright must support artists and creatives to facilitate protecting their intellectual property. Right holders must be able to express nuanced decisions about potential uses of their works through standardised systems and be fairly compensated for the use of their works. It is the role of government to ensure copyright is protected and enforced, so let's ensure we do that.
Jonathan Davis.
And thank you to my honourable friend from Bury North for securing this important debate. A study by the International Confederation of Societies and Authors and Composers found people working in the music industry could lose up to a quarter of their income by 2028 as a result of generative AI. These losses would happen on two fronts: unremunerated and unauthorised use of their work, as well as competition from AI-generated outputs. In opposition, the now government proposed to grow the creative economy and create good jobs right across the country. That is rightly welcomed, but there is significant concern about the proposed opt-out approach to text and data mining, and I want to add my voice to others who are concerned about the removal of Baroness Kidron's amendments from the data bill. The government previously said that the bill was not the right vehicle for action in respect of this, so I would welcome some clarification, if not now, when. The EU has an opt-out system for text and data mining. It's had it since 2019, but no effective rights reservation solutions have developed in 6 years. And this was also introduced before the widespread adoption of AI, and now they're trying to retrofit solutions. The government has also outlined that AI companies and creative industries would need to collaborate to solve these problems, and I would appreciate some guidance from the Minister about the work that's happening in that space. I know the government's waiting for the results of its consultation, but I know many creatives would appreciate some clarity today about the work that's happening. The UK's creators are not asking for special treatment. They're asking for fairness. They're asking that the unique value of their work be recognised and protected in the digital age. Let's make sure that the law not only keeps pace with technology, but with justice too.
I want to thank members for keeping so keenly to the time limit. It allowed us to get everybody in. So moving to the front bench, opposition spokesperson for the Lib Dems, Max Wilkinson.
Thank you, Ms McVeigh. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and I congratulate the honourable birthday boy from Bury North for securing this important debate. So in my constituency, I have a thriving creative industry and also a thriving tech industry. It's off the back of GCHQ. Cheltenham has a lot of these businesses. We've got a lot of creative businesses. When I hosted my roundtable with the creatives, they told me that they were extremely worried about what was being proposed, or what they assumed was being proposed in the government's consultation. When I talked to tech startups, they are also concerned about this, because they're worried that the things that they're doing to innovate are also being scraped. And that is a concern from an economic growth perspective in both directions, which the government needs to acknowledge. Now, intellectual property rights protect human ingenuity. They are the legal and moral foundations that allow creators to share in the value of what they create. But artificial intelligence is now blurring the line between human and machine authorship, raising urgent and complex questions. Who owns an AI-generated piece of music trained on thousands of copyrighted songs? How do we enforce rights when the inputs and outputs are hidden behind proprietary algorithms? The answer must be that creators own the rights to their own work, and that right must be protected. For centuries, creators have honed their craft through years of study, practice, and transformation. That contributes to what we all enjoy when we enjoy the creative industries. But AI now allows machines to ingest and remix millions of works in just seconds, fundamentally altering the relationship between inspiration and creation. And if you talk to the tech companies about this, they are not quite grasping the difference between their innovation and the innovation of the human mind. This unprecedented scale and speed demands stronger protections, not weaker ones. Our creative industries generate £126 billion annually. They are central to our economy and our cultural identity. But as AI continues to reshape content production, the intellectual property rights of our writers, musicians and artists must be safeguarded, not weakened. As we've argued during the data bill debates, when innovation outpaces regulation, we risk losing public trust and undermining the very creative industries that employ 2.3 million people across the country. That is bad for our economy. Throughout the debates on data legislation, we've consistently argued that consent must not be an afterthought. It should be the default. If a human being created something, they have the right to know how it's being used and to be fairly recognised and remunerated for that use. That principle must carry through to how we approach AI and intellectual property. The tech companies claim that an opt-in system would be too technically complex to implement. Well, they would, wouldn't they? But at its heart, this debate isn't about technical feasibility. It's about being willing to respect creators' rights from the outset, preventing theft, as other members have said, and supporting our valued creative industries. We've also warned against innovation washing, the idea that technical progress should come before ethical scrutiny. It is not anti-innovation to protect creators, quite the opposite. A fair IP framework is what allows our creativity and innovation to thrive, and it is good for our economy too. So what must we do? Well, first, we must ensure that web crawlers and AI models are bound by existing copyright law. That's why the Liberal Democrats have tabled amendments to the data bill that would enforce existing copyright protections rather than weakening them through a suggested opt-out system. Second, we need meaningful transparency. Our amendments would increase data and identity transparency for crawlers and models, ensuring creators know how and where their work is being used to train AI systems. Third, we need a clear path for consent and compensation. We've seen in the data debates how opaque data collection practices undermine public confidence. That lesson must apply here. Creators should have the right to opt in or opt out of their work being used in AI training, and there must be mechanisms for meaningful, proportionate compensation. I also urge the government to lead internationally on this issue. We have an opportunity to establish stronger protections that better serve our creative sector. The Independent Society of Musicians, the Authors Guild, the British Copyright Council, the Association of Illustrators, to name just a few of the many organisations representing hundreds of thousands of creators, all support this stance. The global nature of AI necessitates coordination through the WIPO and alignment with international partners. But British creators deserve robust protections that travel with their work across international borders. This debate has repeatedly shown that across party lines, creators must be protected. And that is true of people who are talking from the Liberal Democrats, from the government benches, from the Conservative benches, the Nationalists, and elsewhere too. They must be at the centre. Data and innovation policy must work for people, not just for platforms or for algorithms or for corporations, but for people. Let us remember that behind every data set are human stories. The novelist who spent years crafting her narrative, the musician who refined his composition through countless hours of practice, the visual artist whose unique perspective shapes our cultural landscape. Their rights are not obstacles to innovation, but its very foundation.
Dr. Ben Spencer.
Thank you, Ms McVeigh. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and it's a real pleasure to be able to respond on behalf of His Majesty's Opposition in this very well-attended, knowledgeable and thoughtful debate. Given so many members have taken part, I can only make some brief remarks on behalf of His Majesty's Opposition. And those I want to focus on are principles, which came up quite a few times throughout this debate. In a complex area, I think it's principles that help us get through. Naturally, it seems to be tradition in this debate to say happy birthday to the member for Bury North. He's going to love clipping this as it goes out on his social media, who spoke with knowledge and passion, and I don't think there's much to disagree with in terms of what he said. And he also mentioned and spoke to what I see as core principles, that of transparency, the ability to enforce copyright, for data to be able to be demonstrated, to see where it comes from, who owns it, what's the route traced to it, and a technological solution sort of, I believe, linked to that in terms of demonstrating data ownership. I'd also like to pay reference to the Right Honourable Member for Gosport, Chair of the Select Committee, who reiterated the importance that all companies need property rights to be enforced, and these two are not mutually exclusive. And I'd like to thank her for the extensive work that she's done in this area, pushing forwards this debate. The previous government was committed to the UK being at the cutting edge of both our tech and creative industries, and we remain committed to this in opposition, and we have heard the concerns of the creative industries loud and clear. But we don't believe there's anything to be gained by treating the emergence of AI as some sort of zero-sum game where one industry wins or never fails. It shouldn't be an either-or. This needs to be mutually inclusive, not mutually exclusive going forwards. And we believe it is possible to achieve that. Now, look, this is a challenging and complex area to get right. Solving this problem is not simple, particularly when you look at what's happening internationally, when you look at the extra-jurisdictional issues, and quite simply, other areas have not fixed it either. If there was a straightforward solution for this problem, we would have it here and it would be in process right now. And I think it's important from the outset to recognise that and to recognise the challenge the Minister have in terms of fixing that problem. But I have ambition for the Minister. I believe he can, and I look forward to him doing so over the course of the next year. And it is this in this direction that we as opposition want to take things forwards. We believe that getting this area of policy right will focus on these key principles. Most importantly, there should be proportionate transparency in our AI industries about how they use creative content to train their models and generate content. This should be combined with recognition and enforceability of creative rights. The development of technology in the form of a readily accessible digital watermark will be instrumental in helping creatives protect their work online. Further, startups and SMEs in our growing AI industries need to be supported to develop their models in a way which respects the rights of creatives. And in this regard, the AI Opportunities Plan identified the need to unlock public and private data sets to enable innovation and to attract international talent and capital. During the Data Bill Committee stage, we put forward a series of pragmatic amendments which would have committed the Secretary of State to put in place a plan to achieve these important aims within a reasonable period after the conclusion of the government's consultation on copyright and AI. We understand the government's received in excess of 11,500 consultation responses from stakeholders which they are in the process of analysing. Given the level of concern its original plans caused to our creative industries, we welcome the Minister's announcement following the closure of the consultation that the government's taking a second look at its preferred approach to regulating this sector. In particular, we welcome the renewed emphasis on the need for increased transparency about how these models are trained so that creatives can enforce their rights. This is a key area. It's one which has came up throughout this debate and one which we called on the government to set out in an informed plan at the Data Bill Committee stage. We appreciate the impact of AI on intellectual property needs proper and careful consideration to get right. We will work constructively to support the creation of policy and plans in this fundamentally important area. Because if we get it right, the benefits of growing our AI sector and supporting our creative sector to continue to thrive will have tremendous economic and societal benefits. But it's time for the government to be clear about its plans. It will help create certainty for both the AI and the creative industries about the way forwards and to help promote an environment of confidence, paving the way for investment and growth. Thank you.
I call the Minister and remind him we could leave a couple of minutes for James Frith to wind up at the end. Minister.
Ms McVeigh, I'm sure that if you were not in the chair, you would be participating in this debate, because I know this is an area where you not only have a personal interest, you not only have an interest as a Member of Parliament, but also I'm not sure whether there's a recording of your performance in the Vagina Monologues from years ago, but there are many other recordings of you around, and I'm sure you would want to enforce your copyright in relation to them as well. It's not only the 48th birthday of my honourable friend for Bury North, and Shakespeare's 461st birthday. It's also Turner's 250th birthday today. I suppose we could all join in singing Happy Birthday. Now that, interestingly enough, it came out of copyright in 2015 because Warner Chappell lost a lawsuit over whether they still maintained copyright of it, which is one of the reasons that it very rarely used to appear in films because people had to pay, and they ended up singing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow instead, or for She's a Jolly Good Fellow, which always seemed rather odd. I'm not going to go through all the individual contributions, if that's all right with members, because I want to deal with the specific issues as much as I can directly. And my honourable friend, who I congratulate on getting his debate today, he talked about a landing point, and that's what I'm going to try and talk about today. So the things that I think we all agree on. First of all, an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. It's not just a fundamental principle of the Labour Party, it's a fundamental principle of the whole of British society and how we order ourselves. I think another honourable member said creators deserve to be paid. 100%. I completely and utterly agree, and so does the government. Interestingly enough, the honourable member right at the back from Hayes and Harlington referred to performers' rights framework. He's quite right. This does need some review. We're looking at this. Interestingly enough, one of the very early debates I took part in Westminster Hall, on the 12th of June 2002, I said that we need to look at the performers' rights framework way back then, and the honourable member sitting over there led the debate that day too. So I completely agree that creators need to be remunerated. Secondly, it is patently wrong to use pirated material to train large language models. And I have to be careful, Ms McVeigh, because I have to record my own interest as an author. I mean, it's been noted in several news, and as a member of the Society of Authors, it's been noted in several newspapers that my own work was also scraped in the Meta Platforms Inc. Use of Library Genesis dataset. This is patently wrong. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Thirdly, we should never characterise the creative industries as Luddites. It is simply and patently untrue. I went recently to Ninja Theory in Cambridge, a video games company. They use AI all day, every day. It's an integral part of them making sure that the quality of their game that they present is at the very cutting edge of modern gaming. And you could say the same of so many different creative industries, not just in their use of AI, but in their use of innovation. So I want to knock this on the head. Nobody in government is saying that the creative industries are Luddites. It is perfectly legitimate to have concerns about your future remunerative stream, and that we admire. And it's not just video games, musicians, I mean, so many different parts of the creative industries use AI. And indeed, a large chunk of the creative industries are tech, who are developing AI as well. We should never forget. And they also, as several honourable members have referred to, have their own copyright concerns, because otherwise, how are they going to make a living into the future? And the irony of some complaining about others stealing their work is not lost on anybody, I think. Fourthly, the creative industries are already engaging with artificial intelligence because many of them are engaged in licensing already and have from the very beginning. It's not just newspapers, many of whom have had an easier time if they've been behind a paywall to be able to deliver that. But also, I mean, there's a whole series of different licenses that have now been arranged. I went to the London Book Fair and spoke to several publishers, all of whom were interested in bringing forward licensing with AI companies, wanting to do it with all the AI platforms for the very simple reason, as some of the academic publishers put it, that they want AI to be the best version of AI it possibly could be. Because a fundamental principle about a pipe is what goes out of it depends on what you put into it. And the quality of responses that AI will produce will depend on the quality of the information that has been put into it, which is why many of the big academic publishers in the UK are trying to license and get remuneration for their work because they want to make sure that AI provides good, modern answers based on solid information. Fifthly, the transparency is absolutely vital. but not simple. As the honourable member speaking for the opposition said, several members have referred to the European Union. The European Union theoretically has transparency provisions in its legislation. It has yet to come up with a system that will work, that is both proportionate and effective and usable. Because, frankly, there's no point in somebody just dumping a list of millions or billions of URLs that have been scraped and looked at on some kind of internet site, whether you did it on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. That would hardly be usable and would hardly be a proper, effective means of transparency. So we need to get this issue about transparency and the enforcement of transparency right. And that's why we have consulted on this area. I think there's a great deal more work that we need to do. I'd actually like to do some of this work with other allies in other countries who are struggling around it as well. But we need to do it with the creative industries and with tech. I suspect there must be out there somebody who could make a commercial living out of coming up with an app that could help us solve this transparency issue. But it is vital. We need to make sure that there is transparency, because otherwise how can anybody know whether their works have been scraped or not? I'm very reluctant, if only because I've got quite a lot of things to get through. I'm really sorry. We will have another debate very soon, I'm sure. The sixth point I want to say is several people have referred to a legal peace of mind that people want. This is not me reiterating the line about whether there is legal certainty or not. That's not the point I'm making. I think individual creators in particular, many have been in touch with me directly or with honourable members, I'm sure, to say, I don't know where I stand now under the present existing law, because I understand how Getty Images can go to court and enforce their rights on behalf of sometimes themselves, but also the people that they represent. But how do I do that for myself when I've just posted some of my works online because I'm advertising my works? And I don't want to disappear from the internet, so the robots.txt system doesn't work. Now, this is, I think, a really important area where we need to do work. We have a framework of civil enforcement of copyright in the UK. It is robust, and it meets the Berne Convention issues that my honourable friend referred to. But it is still easier for those to use it who have lawyers and who have cash. That's why, of course, we have collecting societies, which can be more effective in many areas. But the different segments of the creative industries that we're talking about here have to be dealt with differently, because a musician, an artist, a photographer, somebody who writes, somebody whose words or voice is being used, those are all treated differently or used differently, or their rights are presently enforced differently, and we need to make sure that there is that legal peace of mind for all those people into the future. My honourable friend for Bury North said that a technical solution for rights reservation does not yet exist. He's absolutely right. I think a couple of other members have made that point, and the Select Committee, I know, which is admirably chaired, has also referred to some of these matters, and in a letter to the Secretary of States, or the Secretaries of State. But I want to ask the question, why don't we make it happen? I'm determined to make it happen. Because if we could get to a place, and it surely cannot be beyond the wit of these clever people who are developing all this technology to develop something. If we could get to a place where it was very, very easy for any individual or everybody, I've only got 45 seconds, so I can't, I'm afraid, I'm sorry. If we were able to deliver that over the next 12 to 18 months in the UK, then we genuinely would be leading the world, and we will be answering the problem about transparency and provenance and making sure that people were genuinely remunerated. And that's one of the things I'm determined to do. My honourable friend First Slough, who's not in his place now, said we must listen to the creative industries before any legislation is brought forward. 100% correct. I absolutely commit myself that that is what we will do. Somebody else said that technology is not good or bad. I think they were almost quoting Hamlet. But the point I would make is artificial intelligence was made for humanity, actually by humanity, not humanity made for artificial intelligence, and we need to make sure that we get that balance right. Finally, my honourable friend started by saying, because he had to say it, we have considered the matter of AI and copyright. We've not adequately considered it yet. We have to consider it more. We were not intending to legislate in the data bill. There is no clause on, in the data bill from the government on opt-out. There is no such clause. There's no need to take it out because it doesn't exist. I am determined to get us to a place where people are properly remunerated, where they're able to enforce their rights, and where AI can flourish in this country and be used by the creative industries, and the creative industries are not left beside the wayside. In short, to quote lines from the Bible, we will not sell our birthright for a mess of pottage.
James Frith to wind up.
Thank you very much. Can I thank everybody for their considered remarks in today's debate? I've been so inspired by not just the turnout of colleagues, but of industry and concerned stakeholders as well. It was remiss of me not to begin with my wife, as is often the case, in failing to declare in my register of interest that she is in fact a jobbing actor and a recording vocal artist as well. Apologies to her and protocol on such matters. I want just to jump straight into the remarks by my honourable friend, the Minister, who I can't fault for his engagement, but I will send him the ministerial questions I have posed, because I don't think we got a commitment to remove the opt-out clause and more clinical focus on the enforcement of copyright, both of which, if we address that, we actually solve much of the problem that brought so many out here today. Thank you to the engagement of the stakeholders and all those who wrote to me in my request for evidence. Thank you.
Order. The sitting is suspended until 4:30. Here we go.